So, Tim Burton's Wednesday came, and it conquered pretty much everyone's hearts. But you might be surprised to know that there are actually a lot of behind-the-scenes facts that many people don't know. If you're wondering about whatever secrets this series on our favorite goth girl is hiding, then you've come to the right place. We'll be talking about just that in today's video. So, let's get started. First up, let's talk about the beautiful castles that were truly one of a kind. Raise your hands if you, like us, were smitten by the beautiful and mysterious locations used in the filming of Wednesday. We know we are. But of course, no location could compare to the mighty castle that housed the Nevermore Academy. Well, here's something you might not have known about all these places. The series was actually shot in Romania, and we've got to say that the Gothic architecture gave the castle a personality of its own. Of course, we wouldn't have expected anything else from the School of Outcasts. The exterior of the beautiful castle that we see in the film is actually the Cantacuzino Castle. Apart from that, the series also utilized historical landmarks such as Palatul Monteru, the beautiful and famous Gara Regala train station, Casa Niculescu Dorobantu, and the prettiest Bucharest Botanical Garden. Well, it's apparent that a lot of work went into finding the perfect locations for the filming of the series, and from the looks of it, they really did hit the jackpot with all these cool places. Moving on, Tim Burton isn't a stranger to the Addams family. Yep, that's right. You must have heard the phrase, "third time's a charm." Well, that turned out to be the case for Tim Burton and his association with the Addams family. Not many people know this, but the renowned director was actually reached out to in 1991 to lead the Addams family production. But sadly, things didn't work out in his favor, since he was busy with Batman Returns at that time. That's not all. Almost 20 years later, he was again reached out to co-write and co-produce a stop-motion animated film, which unfortunately didn't really work out. So, in the end, the director was finally admitted into the Addams Family universe in 2022 with the brand new series called Wednesday. Up next, Jenna had fake blood on her during the audition. Now, this was definitely one of the moments where Jenna channeled her inner Wednesday, making everyone believe that she was perfect for this character. What happened was that the young actor was in the middle of filming her horror movie, X, when she ended up taking a call with Tim Burton in order to discuss details regarding the series. While talking about that call later, Jenna revealed that she had stage blood and glycerin sweat in her hair, which was accompanied by a huge cut on her face. And on top of all this, she had been up for more than 24 hours. So, when she got on the Zoom call, Burton actually ended up laughing, which made her laugh in return. Jenna later commented on that, saying that it was an endearing moment. Moving on, Uncle Fester sacrificed his hair for the role. With modern technology and equipment, it isn't hard to make someone with a head full of hair appear bald, but that wasn't something Fred Armisen wanted for his character as Uncle Fester on Wednesday. He told the media outlets that while his eyebrows were covered with prosthetics, he didn't think that a similar technique would work on his hair. According to him, bald caps don't look great all the time, so he thought that actually shaving his head would be much more convincing, and looks like he made the right decision. Following up, Joy Sunday's contact lenses freaked out the actor first. The one thing that stood out the most about Bianca was her bright and extremely captivating eyes. They definitely shocked us all when we first saw her in the first episode of the series. And guess what? They actually successfully managed to freak the actor out herself. While talking about it, she said that looking in the mirror versus seeing myself on the screen is a little crazy. And well, we totally understand that. She also recalled how people would be looking at her in a weird manner on stage because of the contacts, but the main thing was that she got used to wearing them all the time. In fact, there were instances where she would forget she had them on and would go back home with them. Of course, she had to come back to return them once she found out. Now, for Lurch and some weird fan theories. What's interesting about Wednesday's version of Lurch is that George Bercia just so happened to be the shortest in the history of all Addams Family adaptations. Now, the Romanian actor was in fact 6'6", but he still had to wear lifts in his shoes to make him appear even taller. But that's not all. Some viewers actually noticed that there was something different between the first version of Lurch that appeared at the start of the series and the one that drove the Addams back home in the last episode. Fans think that it might actually be a shapeshifter instead of Lurch. Of course, no one is yet sure about who that is, but names like Rowan, Thornhill, and Principal Weems are being thrown around. And although it seems highly unlikely, we'd love to see Principal Weems return. Not to mention, Tyler took a driving test for the series. Now, you might have to rack your brain to remember that one scene where Tyler drives a car in the series, but What's crazy about it is that he actually had to take a driving test for that one scene to ensure everyone that he was fit enough. Yep, we're talking about the scene where Tyler and Enid get tricked by Wednesday into exploring the Gates mansion. And even though the part where Tyler drives away from the Nevermore Academy is very small, the creators just couldn't risk it. Hunter Duhan, later in an interview, talked about how he only had to drive for 2 feet, but since many people aren't huge fans of actors driving, they had to take a test to make sure he could handle it. Next up, Goody might have had a different name. So, this is actually something pointed out by a lot of people. We were introduced to Wednesday's ancestor, who went by the name Goody. In fact, that's what Wednesday also calls her when she first sees her in a vision. What's interesting about this is the fact that in the time period in which Goody's character was based, women were often called Goody, which stood for something like Miss or Mrs. So maybe, after all, the great Adam's ancestor might have had a different name. Moving on to a tribute to Tim Burton. Don't you love it when you find little tributes to the directors or any other important people sprinkled throughout a production? Well, Wednesday had just that. It's clear that the creators knew just how lucky they were to have someone like Burton on their team. So, the crew made sure to add some references to his work. If you look at the weather vane scenes, you'll notice that there are some frames on the back wall. Well, if you take an even closer look, you'll notice that there are actually some snapshots of the director's past works. Now, that's definitely beautiful and iconic. Now, let's talk about the Poe Cup. The legendary Poe Cup scenes had everyone gripping their seats in excitement. But it's a little known fact that they were actually filmed in 2 separate locations. That's right, both Brantessie and Sturby Lakes were designated spots for filming. And get this, the cast actually had to learn how to row for a fictional competition. Joy Sunday told Teen Vogue that it was a pretty grueling experience. Well, we won't argue with her about that. Now for the blood shower scene. Okay, so let's get this out of the way. The blood shower scene was perhaps one of the most iconic scenes in the series, and as one would expect, it was actually very hard to film. While the hair and makeup departments were given the false hope that the scene wouldn't need more than a single take, things really didn't work that way. So sadly, they had to scrub off the blood stains of the actors and replace their wigs, only to have all of it ruined again. Next up, Christina Ricci was almost not in the series. Christina Ricci, playing the role of Marilyn Thornhill, was somewhat poetic, since she actually played the younger version of Wednesday Addams in an old production. And let's be honest, can you really imagine someone else as the only normie teacher at Nevermore? But what's interesting is that it was actually Thora Birch who was going to play the teacher. In fact, filming had already started, but the actor ended up leaving due to some creative differences. So Burton did what he does best and saved the day by creating the role of Marilyn Thornhill for Ricci. And get this, the 2 Wednesdays never really compared notes regarding their performances as the character, since Ricci didn't want her suggestions to be overbearing. Jenna later recalled that whenever they were on set, neither of them said Wednesday once to each other. Lastly, let's talk about Thing. Thing pretty much stole everyone's heart with his witty and endearing performance. And get this, the hand wasn't actually added as VFX later in the post-production. You see, Burton wanted it to be as authentic as possible, so he wanted a real person to play Thing. In the end, they settled with Victor Dorobantu, a famous magician who wore a full-coverage blue suit so that his body could be easily edited out. And here's something interesting. The set was customized according to Dorobantu's needs. You see, as he was playing Thing, it ended up getting him into some very awkward positions, so they had to install trap doors and secret ways for the actor to move around freely. The production designer, Mark Scruton, told media outlets that they ended up designing a The Muppets-like set where things were elevated to help the actor. Sounds very complicated, doesn't it? That's a wrap for this video, folks. Did you know these facts about Wednesday? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more awesome videos like this. See you in the next one with the latest updates.